Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong. Unfortunately, not joined by Cody this morning. He's got some stuff going on in his personal life, so prayers up to Cody. Hope things go well for him. He's struggling with losing a friend currently on social media, so hopefully that all works itself out. But hate to hear about things like that happening. On to Steelers news. First off, happy Easter, everyone. Hopefully you get plenty of time to spend with your families today. I'm planning on doing that later on myself, just taking this morning to get something out to the folks here. So lots to talk about today. First, I'm going to take a moment to kind of celebrate some victories here on the show. So this last week, we had a massive increase in downloads on the audio platforms. In countries we've never had download before, and in states we've never had before. And this is 6 years worth of podcasting for us, and we've not had this. So like this last week, we had Poland, Spain, Brazil, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Sweden, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Australia, France, Hong Kong, Latvia, Romania, Afghanistan, Germany, Dominican Republic, Honduras, India, Italy, Nauru, Pakistan, Palau, Russia, Slovakia, Thailand, Tajikistan, Taiwan, and South Africa. Needless to say, that's a lot more than the norm for us. So appreciate every one of you new listeners. Now, stateside, we actually had some states listen that we've never had before also. Alaska and Hawaii, also Maine, I believe we've never had before either. So all of those jumping on board for some brand new listenership in all these areas. So appreciate every single one of you. If you ever have any comments on how you found us, any requests for topics you'd like us to talk about, feel free to put them in the comments here on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere else that you see them. And we'd be happy to add those things and talk about new topics on the show. Big week for the Pittsburgh Steelers with the NFL draft coming up. Today being Sunday, Thursday, so only 4 days away is day one of the NFL draft. We're going to do some live shows, Facebook and YouTube at the same time, hopefully, assuming everything works the way that we're hoping that it will here on this format that we use. So that's the plan, to look for us to be on the first round. I think we'll have both myself and Cody and possibly Nick as well. I'm committed to doing every pick. So I will do all of them, but I think I'm going to have both of them for the first round also. So hopefully that all goes to plan. They're going to try and do that from our sponsorship location, which is over at the Edinburgh Hotel Bar. So I'm just going to say this right out of the way here. Supporters of the Steelers by the Lake podcast include the Edinburgh Hotel Bar, serving a variety of lunch and dinner items every day from their location at 100 Meadville Street in downtown Edinburgh. Information is available at 814-734-5103 or online at edinburghhotelbar.com. The Edinburgh Hotel Bar, where you add me at hotel. Anyone from the area or anyone that went to Edinburgh College knows all about the Edinburgh Bar Hotel. So fun spot to go, and we appreciate Pat for the sponsorship that he has continued to do for us, allowing to cover the costs of some of the things that we do here. So getting into the nuts and bolts of today's show, Pittsburgh did make a roster transaction by signing Max Scharping to a one-year deal. Max was on the team last year as a backup interior offensive lineman, with his resume being mostly at guard, a former second or third round pick, I believe, by the Cincinnati Bengals. So a high pedigree guy who has not turned out as far as his career as a starter. But as far as backup, you could do a heck of a lot worse. So the last 2 weeks, they're kind of buttoning up those last couple backup offensive line positions. Don't rule it out for the draft. I feel like they could probably still take somebody mid-late rounds. I wouldn't be surprised if an offensive tackle is a priority, just to get somebody in the pipeline in case things don't work out with Broderick Jones or with Troy Fautanu. I kind of think we're probably going to be okay. They're a bigger question mark with Broderick Jones moving back to the left side for the first time since college. Then I think we're going to be just fine with Troy Fautanu. But hopefully Broderick works out. Cross your fingers on that. It's a big projection, big question mark for the upcoming season. So beyond that, another thing for Steelers by the Lake for us this week, we were actually named there was a list created by a website of the top 40 Pennsylvania sports podcasts. We were named number 20 on that. That's including everyone who does Steelers podcasts, Philadelphia Eagles, Philadelphia Phillies, 76ers, the Pirates, Penn State football. All of this is included in this. And we hit number 20 out of all of those, which is pretty awesome. Really great recognition for us here at the podcast. So appreciate every single one of you for liking, sharing, giving 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. That kind of thing is what allows us to continue showing up on these lists in the top portion of them a lot of times. I mean, it would be easy for us to be left off being a smaller podcast, but there we are sitting at top 20 in the entire state. So pretty awesome recognition for us there. I want to get into what I feel Pittsburgh is going to do this upcoming weekend in the NFL draft. We've been talking about it a lot, but I want to say some specifics here on what I really think Pittsburgh should be doing here. Starting in the first round, I think it's been pretty obvious from what I've talked about. I would love for Pittsburgh to take a defensive lineman in the first round. I think it needs to be an extreme priority. Cam Hayward's 35 years old now. Still put up a Pro Bowl season this last year. Still played very well. You cannot expect this to happen for much longer. Realistically, he's already playing at a high level way later in his career than a typical defensive lineman does. So Pittsburgh has to get this figured out now. We were lucky enough to have that torch passed down from Aaron Smith to Kimo Van Olhoff and to Brett Kiesel. And then it got into the years with Cam Hayward. And then they took some shots with a guy like Ziggy Hood that didn't work out. And then Stephon Tuitt, which was an incredible pick. And just as he was getting to the peak of his career, unfortunately suffered a personal tragedy. His brother died in a very tragic accident. And he just did not have the motivation to continue playing football. I get that. Nobody's mad at Stephon Tuitt for that. I wish life would have worked out better for him. Would have loved to have continued having him as a Pittsburgh Steeler because he was incredible. I think he had like 11 sacks his last year with Pittsburgh. Actually outperformed Aaron Donald in almost every category. It was a tremendous season he had that year. And then they hit on Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave was an excellent defensive tackle for Pittsburgh, but they couldn't afford to keep him with some of the other people they were paying. So got to get this now while we still have Cam Hayward. I think the Keanu Benton pick was a good pick. I think that was a good start. I think we're going to see that next step come from Keanu Benton once he's got some more pieces around him, once there isn't quite so much pressure on him like there is right now to be the next Cam Hayward. How much of pressure is that? I mean, Cam Hayward's probably the second best defensive lineman in the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers, only behind Mean Joe Green at this point. But that's a lot of pressure to be that next guy, in my opinion. But there's some guys in this draft that I think can do that sort of thing. So let's talk about it. First off, we're talking Derek Harmon, who is the defensive end type that I am personally a very big fan of. I think he would be a fantastic scheme fit. He's out of Oregon. When he went to the NFL Combine, he weighed in at 6'4.5", so almost 6'5", 313 pounds with 34 3/8-inch long arms. That's excellent length for him. He ran a 4.95 40-yard dash, which is very good for such a large human being, and had a 1.74 10-yard split, which is the measurement of how fast he covers the first 10 yards in that dash, right? So that's incredible for a guy so big, that kind of range. He's great against the run. He has a pass rush arsenal already, has some good moves. He can develop that sort of thing with a little bit of help. He would absolutely get that from our defensive line coach, who's an excellent defensive line coach, and then working with Cam Hayward. Like we've seen footage of Cam Hayward working with Isaiah Loudermilk and Alex Highsmith this offseason together. So he would love to have a guy like this under his wing. That is guy number one for me. That's the best case scenario. Derek Harmon. Now we've got a defensive end in that same type of mold, that height, that length, that strength, ability to anchor against the run, and ability to get after the quarterback. You need to hit on all those categories. Now, if he's not available, my next option would be Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant is the defensive tackle out of Michigan, a little bit more of a nose tackle type. He's 6'3" and a half, weighed in at 331 pounds at the combine. 33 and a half inch long arms, so he's got good length. He did not run a 40-yard dash, but he's that power dude who has a really good motor as a pass rusher. And we've got that footage out there of him running down a Penn State running back, and it's just pretty incredible what he can do athletically. So he's more of your anchoring nose tackle who can also rush the passer. I think if Pittsburgh goes that route, then you move Keanu Benton out to defensive end, which I think would be a pretty natural fit for him because physically he's a similar size to what we talked about with Derek Harmon, with great length and good height as well. So those are plan A, plan B for me. Now, if those guys are both off the board, that's when I think you shift gears and go to safety Nick Emanwari. Now, this is assuming that safety Malachi Starks is off the board already. I believe he will be. Nick Emanwari is that athletic freak that if you get a guy like this, he can do everything for you. So, again, at the combine, 6'3", 220 pounds, ran a 4.38 40-yard dash with a 1.49 10-yard split, which is insanely good acceleration. This man had 20 reps on the bench of 225 pounds, which is incredible for a safety, a 43-inch vertical leap, and an 11'6" broad jump. Super athletic freak. He's got capability of playing in the slot. So I know what you're saying. We got Minkah Fitzpatrick. We got Deshaun Elliott. So Minkah, what is he, a 5-6-time Pro Bowler at this point? Deshaun Elliott had his best season ever last year as a safety with Pittsburgh and has one more year left on his contract. I'm not saying that we're benching one of those two. I'm saying that we're working him in. Year one, start him at the nickel corner. He's played it in college. Imagine a guy that big. You can't run that direction if a wide receiver is trying to block him. It's not going to work. And if they're in a situation where they're trying to switch guys up, a guy like that can match up against tight ends and give you that coverage that you need. When we're in the AFC where there's a lot of really skilled tight ends that you go against on a regular basis, especially on those elite teams, if you think you're going to make a playoff run, you better have somebody that can cover these guys. And it's a shame to try to waste somebody like Minkah on it. So why not give him a future long-term running mate and somebody that can help immediately as a slot corner? I would love that as an option. Now, let's say all three of those guys are gone. They're off the board. They already got picked. This is kind of worst case scenario for Pittsburgh because I think those are the three guys they should really like the most. I'm fully supportive of a trade back scenario at that point. I think Pittsburgh is definitely shopping on this, and you can tell by the top 30 visits, the guys that they've brought in. Some of these guys are guys that would be like a late first to early second round. They don't have a second round pick right now. I definitely believe Pittsburgh will try to make a move to acquire an additional second or third round pick just because they love to have as many picks as they are naturally supposed to have in certain rounds or certain days. So I wouldn't be surprised if they acquire an additional third round pick. I think a second round would be way too difficult to do. You'd probably have to give up a future first in order to do that. And I don't think they're looking to give up that kind of capital. But I could see them trading multiple future picks in order to try to get into the third round this year, like a third and a fourth next year or something like that. With the additional compensatory picks that Pittsburgh is slated to get, they're going to have the ammunition next year. So do they want to save it all next year to try to trade up and get your future quarterback that I don't think you should take in this year's draft class because they're just not talented enough? Or do you trade some of those assets now to try to move up this year to get a more well-rounded team? It's a very important decision. If they do this trade back scenario to where they're now one of the last picks in the first round or an early second round, here's the guys I would be looking at. Cornerback now would be squarely, in my view, with cornerback Trey Amos and cornerback Azareye'h Thomas, both expected to be late first or early second rounders, both being guys that you could put as your number two corner opposite of Joey Porter Jr. You'd have a year with Darius Slay to try to learn some technique stuff. and both of them have what you're looking for size-wise. A better athletic score from Trey Amos, better size and length from Azareye'h Thomas. So they each have their pluses and minuses, but both would be adequate corner number twos and quality starters right out of the gate. If you don't go either one of those, then I'm a huge fan of Darius Alexander out of Toledo. I don't think Darius is going to go in the first round, but athletically sized, profile-wise, he is extremely similar to Derek Harmon, who is my favorite defensive lineman in this class. So Darius, we're talking about almost 6'4". He's 6'3" and 7/8. He's basically 6'4", 305 pounds with 34-inch long arms. So that's great length there. In a 4.95 40-yard dash. That's exactly what Harmon ran, a 1.72 10-yard split. And he actually put up 28 reps on the bench. So very, very strong individual. He's a few years older and playing at the smaller school, Toledo, is one of the reasons I believe he's not going to go in the first round. But there's no chance he's going to be there in the third round, in my opinion. If he is, man, you run that in. I don't care if you already took Harmon in the first. You run that pick in to take Darius Alexander. He is capable to start day one. He is not one of those guys that's going to need a couple of years to get the technique down, to get some more strength. He's pro ready. He's ready already. He's got the size. He's got the strength. He's got the athleticism. He's like a 24-year-old, 25-year-old rookie is what we're looking at because he played like 6 years in college. So that kind of guy, he's ready to go, man. So Darius Alexander, I feel like if you can still land him in a trade back scenario, you're just getting a prospect that's a couple years older. And as we're seeing with Cam Hayward, if you've got the work ethic, if you're taking care of your body correctly, if you're doing what you're supposed to, and he'll have someone there to teach him how to do those things, but it seems to me like he probably already is, you can get a long career. You can play into your mid-30s and still be at a high level. Defensive line doesn't need top-end speed like other positions do. It's more about short area quickness, hand technique, and strength. And he's already very strong, and he's already got short area quickness. So it's more about keeping yourself in good shape when you're a guy this size. Maybe take it a little bit further as far as your strength so you can be dominant like Cam Hayward is. Cam got drastically stronger as he went along with his NFL career. And that's one of the things that allowed him to be as successful as he is, not being able to be moved against the run. And really, when his bull rush gets going, he takes guys and puts them on skates and brings them right into the backfield. So that's the kind of thing I think could be a game changer. Now, day two, this is the next most important thing. We're talking about the third round pick. There's a possibility, like I said, Pittsburgh's going to try to acquire an additional one. But guys, I would target in that third round defensive tackle Joshua Farmer, a similar size profile with good length, who could play defensive end, could play on the interior also. Defensive end Elijah Roberts. This is a guy who is listed as an edge rusher, but has the size profile that looks like he could probably handle the defensive end position for Pittsburgh and how they do things. So Elijah Roberts, what we're talking about with him is 6'3" 5/8", so almost 6'4", 285 pounds, 33 5/8" long arms, so good length. Ran a 4.78 40 with a 1.67 10-yard split, and good scores in the jumps too. So he's a better athletic score, but a little bit smaller. Still good length, but not the elite length that we're seeing on some of the other guys. I think he'd be an awesome 3-4 defensive end that could get you some real pass rush juice with that athleticism on those like third and long situations, those obvious passing situations. So those would be a great option. Then running backs. Running back, I think, is almost for sure going to be a third or fourth round pick, in my opinion. I think they're going to add somebody in one of those two rounds. And when we talk about this list, we talked last week about the running back list and all these guys that have been brought in pre-draft. Omarion Hampton, I feel like, is a first-round guy. I kind of would rather they don't take a running back in the first round. But DJ Giddings easily could be third or fourth round. Ollie Gordon, Bashal Tutin, Jaden Blue, RJ Harvey, Travion Henderson, more likely a first-round guy. There's a lot of running backs that Pittsburgh has brought in and talked to that easily fall into that third to fourth round category. So I think that they're probably going to take one in one of those two positions and should, because are they really committed to Jaylen Warren long term? Jaylen Warren, I think, is already about 28 years old. I could see them giving him a 2 or 3 year extension after this year if he does really well. But I think Pittsburgh is more looking at trying to find his replacement in the draft. That's just my instinct on it. That's just the way I'm feeling on it. That doesn't mean for sure that's what they're trying to do. That's probably what I would be looking at. And there's just a plethora of running backs in this draft class. You might even be able to bring in an undrafted guy similar to Jaylen Warren and get similar kind of success because there are so many good running backs in this draft class. So I'm big on that. I'm very bullish on that. Outside of that, what we should expect, I think they're going to bring in some offensive line depth. Look for a mid to late guy, probably 5th, 6th, 7th for offensive tackle with maybe some guard capability. Also, I wouldn't be surprised to see a nickel corner somewhere. If you don't land Nicky Minori early on, look for one of these other guys like an Upton Stout or someone of a similar stature that could be a faster, shorter kind of dude who could cover that slot and help out against the run a little bit. Also a projection quarterback, like a project type quarterback, like they've brought in, for example, Kyle McCord, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shock. Of those guys, Tyler Shock and Kyle McCord would fit into those mid rounds where I could see them still being available 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th round. I think you take a shot on a quarterback. I'd be in favor of it being 5th or 6th round personally to try to develop them as a future backup. You've got Mason Rudolph on a 2-year deal. It's extremely likely from everything I'm hearing that the Aaron Rodgers deal is basically done. I don't see any point in drafting like a Shedeur Sanders or a Jackson Dart early. I just don't think that they're a high enough quality guy to bypass next year's draft. I don't think that you should push all your chips in on a guy like one of those two. I just don't think the talent is there. I think you'd be making a mistake to go for one of those guys and call him your franchise quarterback of the future. It's just not my cup of tea on either one of them. But I think it's a good idea to get somebody in the pipeline and get somebody that you can develop as your future number 2 and possible backup of the future, because you're not going to be able to continue bringing Mason Rudolph through on that. Eventually, he's going to want to have another shot somewhere else. I think he's kind of under the understanding now that he's probably not a starting quality quarterback for any team, but definitely something that should be strongly considered. Wouldn't be surprised by a wide receiver late, somebody to compete, probably a bigger guy, maybe somebody who has some capability as far as special teams. That wouldn't surprise me. Like Isaac Tesla or Betch, one of these bigger wide receivers who's known for being good blockers. I like both those guys a lot, so I could see that happening with either one of them. And then the last thing, I highly expect Pittsburgh to double dip. I think you should go after a guy early with the pass rush capability that's a little bit more of the defensive end type, and then later on get your nose tackle type. A big, massive guy who's just tough to move against the run. We need an upgrade in that area. We just do. Keanu Benton's a good defensive tackle. He's a decent nose tackle. He's not that immovable force. I'm not in favor of moving on from him. I just think let's put him in a situation that is more favorable for him winning out on the defensive end. So if you can get a defensive end type early to be a future replacement for Cam Hayward, but a short-term starter opposite him, and then a guy later on who can move into the nose tackle position, then we can move Keanu Benton out once Cam retires, and then I think you're going to have a good situation going on. But it's a great draft class for defensive line. It's a great draft class for running back, and important that Pittsburgh takes advantage of that. A lot of good quality corners, too, where you can get starter-capable guys up into like the 3rd, early 4th round. So probably a decent idea to take a shot at one of those, too. Anything that you guys have, any comments, any questions, throw them in the comment section here. We'd love to hear from you guys. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, on Apple Podcast, Spotify, anywhere that you can think of podcasts, we're going to be there. So for Cody and sometimes Nick, this is James signing off.